The following is a paid program, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent the opinions of the management of this station or Pamel Broadcasting. And the views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers of this program are solely their own. They do not represent or reflect the views, policies, or official position of ACA, its affiliates, or its staff. ACA does not endorse any statements made during this broadcast. This is 1 in 31 Autism Today, a presentation from Anderson Center for Autism. 1 in 31 Autism Today is a weekly show devoted to autism spectrum disorder.
Good morning and welcome to 1 in 31 Autism Today. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, Chief Development Officer at Anderson Foundation for Autism. And on behalf of Anderson Center for Autism and the Foundation, I want to welcome you to the podcast and welcome to our guest today, Jan Schlueter, co-founder and CEO of Neurodiverse Technologies. Jan, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to talk about what I love.
That's great. I love that you love it. It's always interesting to talk to people who are passionate about what they do, really, regardless of what it is they're doing. But on this podcast, obviously, we talk primarily about things that impact the autism community, the neurodiverse community. And obviously from your, the name of your company, Neurodiverse Technologies, you do that. And so you're here today to hopefully give us some background on yourself to start and how you got into this field and what you're doing. And then we'll get into the company and hear about all the things that you provide.
Open. Awesome. Thank you.
All right. So take it away. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and you can go as far back as you'd like, whatever you're comfortable with.
I would say that I'm an entrepreneur per default or per trade, or I don't know how you would put this, but I created companies before, and I was into software and tech previously to Neurodiverse Technologies. I was co-founder and COO of a company that was working with AI and computer vision and supply chain and healthcare. So that led me to, at some point, to Nashville. After I left the company a couple of years back, I was looking for a new chapter in life, and through the network that I built up in Nashville, particularly, I was approached and let's say in contact with Vanderbilt, and specifically with the Frist Center for Autism and Innovation at Vanderbilt, and they were looking for a entrepreneur in residence that was taking over all the business affairs of the nonprofit organization, which the Frist Center for Autism and Innovation is. And my task was basically to take Sandy, formerly known as a different acronym, the Driver Readiness Platform.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Yes, and they tasked me with the opportunity to bring the Driver Readiness Platform from prototype stage to product to market, to bring it the last mile towards commercialization. So I was the commercialization person with that. And while I was doing that, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, they asked me if I want to co-found and lead a spin-off company, because the Frist Center is a nonprofit organization, but they wanted to have a for-profit vehicle that runs like a for-profit organization, thinks like it and acts like it, and brings products specifically for the neurodiverse market to market, if you so will. And I said, yes, that's an awesome opportunity. I like that. So close before we launched Sandy, we created the spin-off called Neurodiverse Technologies, where the Frist Center and Vanderbilt are shareholder. Recently launched Tennessee is also part of that, and some advocates and supporters of this initiative. And here we are, starting one of many products that have the same intent, which is assistive and supportive technology for people with autism in different ways. A little bit focused right now to the life skill building for independence, like workforce, career matching, career readiness, and driver readiness, everything that enables you to, as an autistic person, to successfully enter the workforce, let's say it like this.
That's cool. So you're looking at a more holistic approach to the independence needed to be successful in the workforce, as opposed to like taking one aspect of maybe, for example, interviewing skills or customer service skills or interpersonal, relationship skills with one's colleagues, which there's because I hear about that a lot. We talk to a lot of different people on this show in particular who are doing interesting things in the field. Some of them are using AI for mock interviewing and things like that. But it sounds like Neurodiverse Technologies, your company, is interested in the whole thing, sort of start to finish, and also sustaining that success in the workforce. Am I getting it right?
It's completely right. We think this is a journey, and there are milestones along this journey, and they are sometimes, not always, but they are very connected. So we see it at the beginning. You should have enough independence to drive to work. And if you cannot drive to work, it would limit your radius where you can act and do what you want to do only to your local area. So this is one step. And the other one is if you are able to drive and be more independent, and you let's say, increase your scope and your radius, then you want to understand what kind of career is good for me. And if you have that found out, we help you to practice a big barrier, which is the job interview. And so there are different aspects to this, and they're all somehow interconnected.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you more specifics about all the different services and tools you provide, but do you go all the way through? Because I hear about this a lot, where if there's often individuals who successfully, figure out what it is they want to do, successfully get a degree or a prerequisite skill building that they need to do that job. They can get there. They get through the interview, and then they get the job, and all of a sudden the supports kind of fall away, and there's an end to that success, where there's an interpersonal thing that happens, or a lack of understanding of how a supervisor might give feedback, and there's some sort of emotional outburst or something that just isn't expected. And so I've heard many times over that the sustainability of success in the workforce is its own entity. So do you carry through the tools that you're offering? Do they carry into that part of once you've secured the job, keeping the job and remaining fulfilled and happy in the job?
Yeah, so we think that's a good point. So you are, let's say, autistic the whole life, and this is a life journey. So you do not stop being 18 and then you're still autistic. You're still autistic when you're 30. So, but yes, we cannot magically create something out of thin air. But I know with the, let's say, initiatives that I also be part of, that there is a lot of tech and support and new programs and new inventions coming and innovations coming that way. To answer your question, yes, we see this as a long life journey that at some points lead to housing and some point leads to the fact at some point, and that is I'm pretty sure you're familiar with that. If you're a parent, the greatest, let's say, idea that is hovering in your head or above your head is what happens when I'm gone. So we see this as a journey that is till the end. So, but we have to start somewhere, right? So we start with driver readiness and career readiness, getting the people into the workforce, and then finding out, and I know what's coming and what is, let's say, lying ahead of us. It's sustainability and keeping people at the job. But this is only one side of the thing. The other side is to create awareness on the employer's side. Exactly. That is super important as well. So this is a multi-dimensional and layered approach. Not that we solve as Neurodiverse Technologies, but this is a whole community effort that we have to face together.
I agree. I think it's a societal challenge right now is putting together the pieces that bring sort of the expertise, the technology, which is just amazing what's available through technology now, and combining it with the core foundations of kindness and openness and awareness and accessibility, and putting those two big things together to address what you're talking about. I often hear families talk about, when they talk about sort of these really very poignant, huge moments for them. And I know I'm generalizing here, so please don't take any offense, anybody listening. There's way more to it, and every family is an individual family going through your journey. But what I often hear is it's sort of the initial diagnosis is this huge moment of sometimes a combination of sort of, huge upset and concern and just unexpected things combined with a sense of, okay, well, now we know what's happening. So there's this, that's a big
relief. It's a big relief.
It can be relief to some. I've heard families, yes, I've heard some families talk about it as being relieved that they know that this is something and we can get supports. Then there's that sort of first cliff of their child leaving the school age program, wherever they are, because there's a huge difference in the services that are available for school age individuals as opposed to adults. But then there's the last one, this other one that you're talking about, which is what happens to my adult loved one when I am no longer here or able because of aging and whatnot to do the level of caring that I've been doing for their whole life. So I think what I like about what you're talking about is the wholeness of it. Again, instead of, I think there's room for different companies and different service providers to come up with tools for one particular aspect. The idea of looking at it reminds me more that you're looking at an individual person living their life, which is a great approach, I think, to many things. We're going to take a really quick break, but when we come back, we're going to delve into, I'm going to give you the whole second half to just talk about neurodiverse technologies. You can start with the driving platform, but get into all the other things that you provide and make sure we get people information about how they can learn more. All right. This is 1 in 31 Autism Today. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, and we'll be right back.
To every referee, umpire, and judge in high school sports, we want to say, we see you.
We see everything you do for us that goes unnoticed.
We see the positive role models that you are.
We see the way you get unfairly criticized just for doing your job.
The truth is, we couldn't play without you.
So thank you for investing your time in us.
Thank you for protecting the integrity of the game, no matter what.
We hope you always know how much we appreciate you.
Because without you, this is just recess. It's not really a game.
Thank you for always making it possible for us to play the sports we love.
Want to serve the students in your community? Sign up to become an official in New York at highschoolofficials.com.
I'm Angela Bassett. As a first responder on screen, I know what it means to act fast in an emergency. In real life, the same urgency can save lives, especially when it comes to food allergy. For 33 million Americans, one bite can cause a life-threatening reaction. Now, there's a needle-free option, a new way to carry epinephrine. Know the risk, know the options. Be ready to act. Learn more at foodallergy.org/ready-to-act.
And now, 1 in 31 Autism Today continues on 100.7 WHUD. This is a weekly community affairs presentation from the Anderson Center for Autism.
Welcome back to 1 in 31 Autism Today, your podcast related to topics on autism spectrum disorder. And I'm Eliza Bozensky, your host. And I'm speaking with Jan Schlueter, co-founder and CEO of Neurodiverse Technologies. Let's just give people the website, Jan. It's neurodiversetechnologies.com, correct?
Yes, when they want to go and see the company website, but if they want to see, let's say, Sandy, the driver readiness platform, you would go to www.sandy.website.
Sandy.website. And it's Sandy with an I, right? S-A-N-D.
Sandy with an I. Yes, yes.
Website. I haven't heard that one before. All right. So thank you so much for at the top of the show, you gave us some background on yourself and background on the company, which sounds really exciting. And I think the approach is really great. And it's so holistic. Now let's get into what you offer. And you can start with Sandy if you want to, but give us some examples of what you offer, and if you have them, any information on successful outcomes or what user experience has been so far.
Yeah, thank you. So Sandy is the very foundation and the very reason why we, let's say, spun off Neurodiverse Technologies. It has its origin at Vanderbilt University. For almost 8 years ago, my co-founder and CTO, Dr. Nilanjan Sakar, had the idea to create, formerly known as SIAD, don't ask me what the acronym means, but Sandy, now more catchier name than SIAD. But he had the idea to close a systemic failure right now that he wanted to correct by or the traditional ways for autistic people to learn how to drive were failing them miserably. So there were just not enough success stories. Of course, there are success stories, but not enough. And the idea back then, I was not even around then, so it's a long time before I came around. They thought let's have a let's say autism-centric design for a method and a program and a software to help people with autism to learn how to drive. So that was the premise back then. And as you might know, that Vanderbilt is doing it very thoroughly. So they did, and they had pilot studies, and they were, let's say, also cooperating with different service providers and with the University of San Diego, State University of San Diego. They were creating a curriculum around this. This is also available these days, called STEER. And together, Sandy and STEER are Drive and Thrive. It's kind of an initiative, but we were focusing on the driving simulator. We were like, okay, what's the beef and what's the awesomeness about what we do? Let's say in regards to other driving simulators. So first of all, it's very scalable because we are only using hardware that you can easily buy at Amazon, which brings down the cost to between $1,800 and $2,200 to get Sandy up and running from the hardware perspective. And also the data-driven and the AI, and so the randomness within the different courses that you have to master to be prepared, if you so. That is something that not all, but some of other, let's say, driving simulators have or not have. But the specific thing we see or we created is the symbiosis between the driving instructor, can be anyone, could be a driving instructor in a driving school, also could be an occupational therapist, a driver's rehabilitation provider, basically anyone, because it's so intuitive and so easy to manage as the one working with the neurodivergent learner. Mm-hmm. So all of this mission of getting it out there as easy as possible, of course, make some bucks with it, yes, but have a very low entry barrier, because some other simulators out there, they cost $7,000, $15,000, even $150,000. And that is not scalable if you want to have an impact even in rural areas with you have small businesses who say, okay, we want to afford Sandy to have maybe an extra revenue stream, but definitely have an impact on my local community and help people learn how to drive. But the most interesting part is that we are using eye gaze tracking, which is also a standard in what we do, so that the instructor sees the eye gaze happening in the simulator. So the instructor sees, okay, you did not watch the sign or the traffic lights, and you did not pay attention where you should. So that is something that is unique what we do, and it helps to tailor the teaching methodology. And the result of that you were asking too. So we have an outstanding, let's say, results and reports of 80%, let's say, more confidence and 80% less anxiety. So really prepping you as a first step before in-car driving practice. And that is what it's all about, to get you to a point where you're not afraid anymore, because the last mile, or let's say the first mile for people not doing a driver's license is because the fear of stepping into a car, into the unknown. So, and we found out everything is based on research and proven by the pilot studies that we have. You can, if you Google, let's say, SIAD and Vanderbilt, you will find a lot of information about that if people want to know. So about the mechanics and the reasons. So everything is written on paper or with white papers and everything. So, and the interesting part is, since we are operational since almost a year ago, and we are rolling out in different states, different multiple locations in Florida, Washington, California, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, obviously, where we are, let's say, based, that the customers really appreciate. In my career as an entrepreneur, I've never been so stunned by the forthcoming of my customers who are advocates, have become advocates themselves. I can send you links from webinars that they were voluntarily giving and sharing their experience with Sandy and how they love it and all of that. So this is mind-blowing how awesome this is if your customers are basically your sales personnel. So that's awesome.
You're filling a need, I think. And
yes,
and
that's the point.
say from the perspective of a service provider, because when I first watched the video, and I would direct people, I would encourage anybody listening to check out there's a short video that you have on Sandy, and again, go to SANDI.website for more information. But even on the Neurodiverse Technologies website, you have a video about it. I was struck by what you like, so many things that you just talked about. The eye gaze feature, the randomness, because if you think about driving, if you think about somebody who, regardless of where they may fall on the autism spectrum or neurodiverse or neurotypical, anybody who is really comforted and most confident in a routine environment where you know what's coming and you know what's next, the concept of driving where you never know any of those things, but yet somehow have to be prepared for all of them. And I don't even know neurologically how that happens when you go from being a driver who's newly learning to somebody more experienced. But eventually, it just becomes sort of second nature. But initially, the idea of that leap from I have to have everything laid out on a schedule and a plan, and that's my plan on Tuesdays, and that's what I follow, to now on Tuesdays at 4, I'm going to get into this vehicle that's super powerful that I'm in control of, and I have no control over anything else around me, nor do I really maybe trust in the moment my own reactions to those things. So it was really, it just felt different when I was watching it. And I love what you're saying about the caregiver or whoever's the teacher, the instructor in that moment being able to utilize this, because initially I was thinking, oh, this is something that an individual would have to buy for themselves and practice on. But now I'm understanding it's really for maybe a driving school, maybe a high school, maybe like you said, OTs, occupational therapists, any organization or service provider that is helping work with autistic and neurodivergent people who are looking for an increased level of independence could buy this and have it as one of the many things that they're offering those individuals. I love it. I think it's great for so many reasons. We've spent, 10 of our 12 minutes talking about this. So I'm going to give those 2 minutes back to you, Jan. What else would you like us to know? And what's next?
So, what's next is a product called Navis. It's an interview readiness platform that we hope to launch in, let's say, late July, early August this year, which has the same pattern, if you so will. It has its origin at Vanderbilt University. There was, again, science out of it. And I am bringing this again from prototype level to commercialization. And this is already, let's say, expected by a lot of people who are already served with Sandy, because this is the next step for getting you prepped and have a lot of practice in different scenarios. It's either as a tablet version, but also later in VR. But it helps you to practice and over, let's say, relive random, let's say, job interviews, which makes you resistant to things that normally would throw you off. So, yes.
I love it. Exactly. In terms of like environment, whether somebody's trying to look you in the eye and is expecting eye contact back from you, questions that you can't really practice for. Maybe an interview sometimes takes a left turn and all of a sudden you're talking about things you like to do in your free time as opposed to what you might have prepared for initially for the interview. And I love that you're following the natural trajectory of, a young adult or an adult of any age, driving age anyway, getting, so now you can drive. So now you can get places. What do you want to do next? Are you driving for a school program or a vocational opportunity, or just any number of things? And maybe at some point you'll be back on the show talking about, social stuff and dating and who knows? It sounds like the world is your oyster, so to speak. But we have to end, but I really appreciate you coming on the show and talking about neurodiverse technologies and Sandy, as well as Navis. It sounds amazing. Jan, it sounds like you're off to just good things for the community. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Eliza, for having me.
It's my pleasure. This is 1 in 31 Autism Today, the podcast on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, and remember, Anderson cares.
You've been listening to 1 in 31, Autism Today, a weekly presentation from Anderson Center for Autism. Join them for another edition of the show next weekend.